we're talking about one of the fun parts of building a home from the ground up today. The upgrades, the add-ons that you can do at a certain point when you go to build your home. Now, you may not have thought about these things. You may have thought about all of these things. Everybody's different, but if you haven't thought about these things, they can be such good things to consider adding in your home, but you have to do it at a certain point, because once the walls go up, once electrical and plumbing is up, that's usually it. You really have a very minimal amount of things that you can do at that point once all of that stuff is in. But we're talking about the pre-drywall phase. So before walls go up, things that you can add, we're going to talk about 10 of them. You may not think these are necessary, but you may find a few of these valuable that you may say, hey, that's a really good idea. So let's talk about them. One of the biggest things that I have seen buyers do that is just a really good idea for a lot of people, and it's just really practical, is adding electrical outlets in places that make sense where you see fit. So we're talking about places like hall closets. So if you plan to put any kind of vacuum or chargeable device in a hall closet and store it there, it might be a really good thing to add an electrical outlet or two in there for functionality and practicality. Some people add extra outlets in the pantry, in the garage, in hallways even. Some add electrical outlets in the living area, just to have one or two extra in the room for extra lamps or anything you want, really. This is another one to really plan for if you plan to have certain rooms dedicated to certain things. So like a home gym, for example, you may want a dedicated circuit for a bunch of bigger devices that require more power. There's quite a many of people that haven't really thought about that, but really it's such a good idea, especially for big equipment like home gyms for sure. All right, this next one is one that is a process usually throughout your build that is talked through with you from the very beginning, and that is home wiring, smart wiring. So this would be any security, this would be doorbell cameras, TVs, any Wi-Fi access points, and pre-wire for mounted TVs, such as like over a fireplace. But this is usually done with a dedicated team. You just have the ability to really think through the wiring that you want to have done in there, the pre-wiring. Some people pre-wire for pendant lighting over like a kitchen island. They don't necessarily take on what the builder is offering as far as pendants. They want to choose their own, but this is a really good option too if you wanted to be able to choose your own lighting in those places. The next one is a plumbing upgrade. I think this is such a good idea, and if it's useful for you, it's an excellent idea. So most laundry rooms that are built now with our builders here in the Houston area don't include laundry sinks, like an extra sink in the laundry. Some builders do, and usually they're the higher price point homes. But if you wanted a sink in the laundry room, this might be something that you could have done in a lower price point, possibly. You just need to ask the builder about it way ahead of time, and just know that all of these things that you add on will just get tacked on to your overall sales price. Some people really like insulation added in certain areas. One room in particular would be like a media room. If you plan to have surround sound or something in there that you would really want to have an extra insulation package added, it's a possibility, it's an option, but it is something that would need to be done obviously before the walls go up. Other places could be bathroom and bedroom. Another thing that builders offer sometimes are packages that they don't necessarily do, but they can offer you quotes from third-party installers. So we're talking about things like blinds, So a lot of the builders right now don't necessarily offer blinds, but they will kind of put you in touch with a contractor that installs them, and then it would just get added on as kind of an upgrade. But kind of the reason why that is because there are so many blind choices and so many options that they have found over the years that there's a lot of buyers that prefer different styles of blinds. But if you want to add them, it's a possibility. We may need to put you in touch with a third-party crew, but that is such a good thing to add that you would want to have put in place way ahead of time to make sure those blinds are installed before you move in. Another thing that you could possibly have a third party come and give you a quote for would be garage installation systems for shelving. A lot of buyers don't think about that when they're actually getting the home built. They're looking in the home, on the interior, looking through the exterior, but they're not necessarily thinking about the garage. A lot of buyers end up putting some kind of shelving in there or wanting to do some kind of organizational system. It's good to think about that ahead of time so that it's less to have to worry with later. It's an option, of course. There's no reason to necessarily stress or worry about that, but it is a good thing to think about ahead of time for sure. Another really good thing to think about is lighting placement and even switch placement. So we're talking about lighting on the exterior. So a lot of times builders will add a coach light to the exterior, one of those kind of overhead lights that brightens up the driveway. There's one on one side, but usually the second light, if you want the sides to match, like if you want one light on one side, one light on the other side of the garage to kind of match and be symmetrical, they end up wanting it to match on both sides, and they end up adding an extra coach light on the exterior for that reason. Another thing that's super common is adding ceiling fans to all rooms, especially bedrooms. Some builders, it comes standard. Other builders, that does not come standard. So usually it does in the living room and the master bedroom. But if you wanted fans in each of the secondary bedrooms, for example, that could be an add-on, but it is a necessity to let the builder know ahead of time what you want, because that's electrical. Another really good thing to think about is door swings. This is such a kind of a weird one, but it really matters to some people what way a door swings. Inward, outward, to the left, to the right. It just kind of depends, but if you have very strict or something very particular that you want, that you envision for a room or just throughout the house, you may ask the builder, hey, can you switch the way the door swings here? Last but not least, this is such a good one. So this is mostly for your reference, but it can be such a helpful thing for you to be able to refer back to later on, is taking video and photos of things behind the walls before the sheetrock gets put up. So we're talking about just in terms of basically capturing all of the plumbing, all of the wiring. If there's certain plumbing outlets or access points throughout the house that you need to be aware of, that's a really good reason to take these photos and videos. If you plan to remodel at any point, this could be a very useful thing for that as well. If there are any builder blueprints, you can get your hands on those. If there are any really intricate floor plans as far as measurements go, for windows, for framing, for just room sizes, all of that is really good to have for anything future customization wise that you may not do now, but you might actually do later. So these are things to just keep in mind, top 10 things to ask your builder for during the pre-drywall phase, or a few weeks before, not after, because you wouldn't be able to really get anything done at that point. But if you have any questions about any of this stuff, let me know. Happy to help make any part of this easier. That's my job, and help you in your home here in Houston. See you on the next video.